In the early morning mist of June 18, 1815, the fields near Waterloo lay silent, almost eerily calm. But beneath that calm, a storm was brewing, a storm that would change the course of European history forever. Imagine the tension, the anticipation, as two titans prepared to clash. Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, a master of strategy and patience, and Napoleon Bonaparte, the legendary emperor whose ambition knew no bounds. Two men, two armies, one battlefield, and the fate of nations hanging by a fragile thread. Every step, every decision, every heartbeat would matter. And it all began here, in this quiet, seemingly ordinary Belgian countryside. Wellington was no stranger to adversity. Known for his unshakable composure, he had spent years building alliances, studying terrain, and perfecting the art of defense. He understood the value of patience, of letting the enemy make the first move, and striking when opportunity arose. Meanwhile, Napoleon, the genius of battlefield tactics, radiated confidence, almost audacity. He believed in bold maneuvers, in striking fear into the hearts of his enemies, and above all, in his destiny to dominate Europe. Both leaders were products of their experiences shaped by victories, haunted by failures, yet driven by an unyielding determination. The European continent had been in turmoil for decades. Napoleon had already reshaped nations, toppled thrones, and rewritten maps. Yet, after his escape from exile on Elba, the continent braced itself for the inevitable clash. Wellington's army, a coalition of British, Dutch, Belgian, and German troops, was stationed strategically, ready to defend. Napoleon, with his seasoned French forces, advanced with precision, seeking a decisive victory that could once again crown him as ruler of Europe. The tension was palpable, every soldier aware that the upcoming battle would test not just their skill, but their courage, their endurance, and their very humanity. As the day unfolded, the first cannon blasts shattered the morning calm. The air was thick with smoke, the earth trembling under marching feet. Both sides engaged in a deadly dance of strategy and instinct. Yet, midway through the morning, a crisis emerged. Napoleon's initial plan faced unexpected resistance. Wellington's troops, entrenched on the ridge of Mont Saint-Jean, held firm. The French assaults were fierce, relentless, but the Allied forces endured. The tide seemed unpredictable every victory, for one side was countered by an unexpected setback. And here, in these critical hours, the fate of Europe hung in delicate balance. Wellington knew that battles are not won by brute force alone. His insight was simple yet profound. Patience and discipline could overcome even the mightiest charge. He watched the battlefield with unblinking eyes, sensing openings, calculating risks. Soldiers drew strength from his calm presence. Napoleon, ever bold, realized that even genius cannot anticipate every variable. And in this tension, a spark of inspiration lit the hearts of those who would fight not just for victory, but for the ideals their nations held dear. The battlefield became more than a place of war. It was a crucible where courage, strategy, and humanity intertwined. The hours dragged on, each moment a test of stamina, resilience, and nerve. French infantry advanced repeatedly, cannon fire screaming across the fields, horses faltering, men falling. Yet Wellington's lines held, reinforced by timely cavalry counterattacks and strategic repositioning. Every maneuver was deliberate, precise, calculated. Soldiers adapted to chaos. Commanders made split-second decisions, and every action rippled across the battlefield. The struggle was brutal, relentless, yet it revealed the extraordinary capacity of human will under pressure. This was history being forged in sweat, blood, and unwavering resolve. Napoleon, realizing that time was slipping, attempted bold cavalry charges and daring flanking maneuvers, but Wellington anticipated each move. Troop placements, fortifications, and disciplined volleys created a near impenetrable defense. Each encounter was a clash of intellects as much as strength, a battle of wits embodied by the men who dared to lead. And while the cannon smoke clouded the horizon, the soldiers found clarity in action, understanding that their courage was as pivotal as strategy itself. History, in these moments, was being written with every heartbeat, every command, every act of bravery. By midday, the battlefield was a chaotic symphony of noise, fear, and determination. Napoleon's elite troops were faltering, but he refused to yield. Wellington, observing the ebb and flow, realized the battle would not be won through sheer numbers alone. It required precision, insight, and trust in his men. Soldiers on both sides faced the raw reality of mortality, yet they pressed on. The fight had transformed into a test of endurance, character, and resolve, and in this crucible, lessons emerged not of dominance, but of resilience, adaptation, and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. As afternoon arrived, exhaustion gripped both armies. The French, frustrated by failed advances, began to show cracks in morale. Wellington, calm as ever, used this moment to strengthen defenses and reposition his forces for the coming hours. Reinforcements from Prussian allies loomed on the horizon, adding a new layer of hope and strategy. The stage was set for the climactic confrontation, the moment where history would hinge on courage, insight, and the capacity to act decisively under unimaginable pressure. Every commander, every soldier, every decision now carried the weight of a continent. Napoleon launched his final offensive, concentrating his forces in a decisive push. Cannons roared, muskets cracked, cavalry charged into chaos. The air was thick with smoke and the cries of men. But Wellington's disciplined formations absorbed the fury, turning desperation into opportunity. This was the battlefield at its purest, test of intellect, courage, and timing. Every volley, every cavalry strike, every maneuver mattered, and slowly, imperceptibly at first, the tide began to turn. The moment of truth, where strategy meets fate, was approaching. By late afternoon, the French lines began to crumble under relentless Allied pressure. Exhaustion and miscalculations compounded Napoleon's challenge. Wellington, sensing victory, commanded coordinated counterattack. The Prussian forces arrived, tipping the balance decisively. Napoleon, the master strategist, faced an enemy who had matched, adapted, and endured. In the chaos of retreat, one could see the fragility of even the greatest empires. History had been decided not by chance, but by preparation, discipline, and unyielding courage. Waterloo reminds us that greatness is not only measured in brilliance or power, it is measured in patience, endurance, and clarity in the face of chaos. Wellington's calm composure, Napoleon's audacity both, teaches that leadership requires more than vision. It demands resilience, timing, and human connection. Soldiers and commanders alike were part of a larger story, one that transcended the battlefield. And in this reflection, we see the enduring lesson that even in moments of overwhelming challenge, human spirit, when guided by purpose and discipline, can achieve the extraordinary. Think about the fear, the hope, the courage that coursed through those men. Young soldiers, fathers, sons, neighbors facing the ultimate uncertainty. Every step was a choice, every command a responsibility. And yet, even amidst chaos, humanity shone compassion, loyalty, and resolve emerged, often in the smallest gestures. A comrade helping another, a leader calming panic, a soldier standing firm against impossible odds. These moments, fleeting but profound, remind us that history is not just shaped by kings and emperors, but by the ordinary people who dared to stand and endure. Wellington's leadership was a study in contrasts, calm yet decisive, patient yet firm. Napoleon's genius lay in daring audacity, creativity, and the ability to inspire devotion. Both approaches offer lessons beyond the battlefield: the value of preparation, the power of calculated risk, the importance of trust in those around you. Leaders, whether in war or life, face moments that test every skill, every instinct, and the story of Waterloo reminds us that success is rarely instantaneous. It is earned, moment by moment, decision by decision, heartbeat by heartbeat. The battlefield had become a chessboard of smoke, mud, and courage. Wellington's strategy relied on holding the ridge, exploiting every weakness in the French lines. Napoleon, sensing the precarious balance, adjusted his tactics with relentless intensity. The ebb and flow of attacks and counterattacks were not merely brute force, they were a contest of intellect, foresight, and endurance. Soldiers adapted to chaos, leaders made split-second decisions, and each choice could tip the scales of history. Amidst this storm, the human spirit, resilient, resourceful, and determined, emerged as the ultimate force. As the sun climbed higher, the air grew heavy with heat, smoke, and anticipation. Exhausted soldiers, yet fueled by purpose, moved in precise formations. Napoleon pushed his cavalry forward, hoping to break the Allied lines, but Wellington anticipated each maneuver. Artillery fire thundered across the fields, musket volleys rattled through the ranks, and chaos reigned. Yet within this turbulence, clarity surfaced. The disciplined, steadfast, and prepared forces could weather any storm. Every retreating French soldier, every advancing ally, contributed to a larger story, a story of strategy, endurance, and unwavering resolve. Bravery is not always loud. Often it is silent, steadfast, almost invisible. A soldier holding the line despite fear, a commander directing reinforcements calmly, a scout bringing vital information against odds. These moments defined Waterloo. The battlefield became a testament not just to tactics, but to human courage. As Napoleon pressed, as cannon fire screamed, the ordinary men and women of the armies revealed extraordinary resilience. Leadership, courage, and history intertwined, showing that sometimes the smallest acts of commitment change the course of entire nations. By late afternoon, the arrival of Prussian forces under Blucher shifted the battlefield's momentum. Wellington, who had long anticipated reinforcements, coordinated a decisive push. The French, exhausted and overextended, struggled to hold their ground. Napoleon's legendary confidence faced its ultimate test. Every cannon blast, every infantry charge, every cavalry clash now had amplified consequences. This moment, this strategic inflection, would determine the fate of Europe. And as the tide began to turn, courage and foresight proved to be as mighty as armies themselves. The final hours of Waterloo were chaotic, yet mesmerizing in their intensity. French soldiers, exhausted and disoriented, faltered under relentless Allied pressure. Wellington's troops, steadfast and coordinated, pressed forward. Horses charged, cannons roared, and the cries of soldiers filled the fields. Napoleon, realizing his defeat, attempted to rally his forces, but the momentum had shifted irrevocably. The battlefield had become a crucible, revealing the limits of ambition, the strength of preparation, and the endurance of the human spirit. Every participant, commander and soldier alike, was part of history in its rawest form. As darkness approached, the French army, Napoleon's dreams of reclaiming Europe, crumbled. Wellington, victorious yet composed, demonstrated that patience, strategy, and discipline could overcome even the most brilliant adversary. The Battle of Waterloo was more than a clash of armies. It was a defining moment of history, a testament to human resilience, foresight, and courage. The victory reshaped Europe, ended Napoleon's reign, and immortalized the leadership of the Duke of Wellington. Waterloo teaches profound lessons about leadership and resilience. Wellington's calm composure, Napoleon's audacity both offer insights. Leadership requires vision, patience, decisiveness, and empathy. It is not enough to command. One must inspire, anticipate, and endure. The battlefield revealed that preparation, strategy, and adaptability are as critical as courage. History, in this sense, is not merely shaped by ambition or genius, but by the disciplined, steady, and reflective actions of those willing to face adversity with clarity and resolve. The battlefield was not merely a place of death and destruction, it was a theater of human endurance. Soldiers facing fear, fatigue, and uncertainty found reserves of courage they never knew existed. Leaders made decisions under extreme pressure, proving that clarity of thought and courage of action can triumph over chaos. Waterloo exemplifies that in every struggle, whether personal or global. Perseverance and insight are often more powerful than sheer force. Moments of despair can birth resilience, and pressure can reveal extraordinary potential. Wellington and Napoleon, though different in method, share common threads: vision, dedication, and the relentless pursuit of their goals. Their story reminds us that history is not only shaped by victory, but by preparation, reflection, and adaptability. Every decision mattered. Every action carried consequences. And while Napoleon's boldness inspired awe, Wellington's patience and discipline ensured success. It is a story that transcends the battlefield, offering lessons for life, leadership, and the pursuit of meaningful goals. Consider the weight carried by those men soldiers standing in mud, smoke, and fear, yet moving forward. Every heartbeat, every volley, every command was a testament to human determination. Ordinary people, in extraordinary circumstances, shaped history. The courage displayed in the face of uncertainty is a reminder that we, too, face our own Waterloo's challenges that demand our patience, clarity, and resolve. And in reflecting on their bravery, we find inspiration for our own struggles. Waterloo is a reminder that triumph is rarely instantaneous. Greatness is cultivated through preparation, resilience, and the courage to act despite fear. Leaders emerge not just from boldness, but from patience and wisdom. Soldiers survive not just by strength, but by unity, discipline, and trust. Each setback is an opportunity, each challenge a test of character. And as history has shown, even the mightiest adversaries can be overcome with clarity, courage, and relentless commitment to purpose. Think of your own battle's moments of doubt, fear, or uncertainty. Wellington faced Napoleon's brilliance with patience. Napoleon faced uncertainty with audacity. Both offer guidance, balance, courage with strategy, boldness with discipline, passion with preparation. Our own lives may not be fought with cannon or cavalry, but the principles remain. Perseverance, clarity, and courage define the outcomes. And when we reflect, we realize that every choice, no matter how small, shapes the course of our personal history. Waterloo ultimately teaches that preparation, patience, and courage are the pillars of achievement. Wellington's victory was not accidental. It was the product of strategy, endurance, and leadership. Napoleon's ambition reminds us of the power of vision and daring. Both stories illuminate the human capacity to confront challenges, adapt, and persevere. And as we reflect, we understand that history is not simply the story of kings or generals. It is a testament to human spirit, resilience, and the capacity to shape destiny. Imagine standing on the fields of Waterloo yourself, feeling the tension, the anticipation, the raw humanity. History was forged here not by luck, but by courage, clarity, and persistence. And your life is your own battlefield. Every challenge is a test, every decision a chance to shape your destiny. Reflect on the courage displayed, the patience exercised, and the resilience shown. Let these lessons guide your choices, inspire your actions, and remind you that greatness is earned moment by moment. Waterloo reminds us, the greatest victories come not from force alone, but from wisdom, patience, and determination. Every life is filled with moments that test our resolve, our courage, our ingenuity. In those moments, we can draw inspiration from the leaders and soldiers who stood firm against overwhelming odds. Let us embrace our challenges with clarity, act with courage, and persist with resilience. For in every battle, whether on a European plain or within our own lives, we have the power to shape history. As the smoke cleared over Waterloo, the world began anew. Nations would rebuild, empires would rise and fall, but the lessons of that day endure. Courage, strategy, patience, and resilience are timeless. Wellington's calm and Napoleon's brilliance remind us that success is complex, shaped by both vision and discipline. And as you face your own battles, remember, greatness is not only in triumph, but in endurance, in preparation, and in the human spirit that refuses to surrender. Stand firm, act wisely, and shape your own history. The battlefield of life awaits.